So we're watching a revolution in real time. I never ever thought I would live to see what I'm witnessing right now. Because I have been on a journey, a very big journey, because having grown up in Kenya, we were full of propaganda. And the propaganda that we were full of was basically because, and everything is interrelated. The global politics is interrelated. Now, ever since I can remember, at the back of my mind, America has been at war. And of course, I wasn't alive during the Vietnam War, but I remember there was so much talk about Vietnam War ever since I have a memory. But what we were not taught about in Africa or in Kenya was the slave trade. We never learned a single thing about slave trade. And they just used propaganda. And one thing we didn't learn is about colonialism and what colonialism was about. Yes, of course, I heard my parents talk about it, but I didn't really know what that was because at school, we learned everything that we learned was about Britain. We learned Shakespeare. We learned all this stuff about the First World War, Winston Churchill, and all of that stuff. And this curriculum was set by the British because it continued with the narrative of colonialism and making the British Empire look like a good thing. Now, the American Empire has relied on the same model. Basically, they all benefited from slavery, and they, all of them, Britain, America, France, Portugal, Spain, all of them benefited from slavery. And they have relied on the fact that the propaganda, which basically forced an amnesia on people globally, that nobody was talking about it. It wasn't that long ago that Kenya was the Gaza being bombed between 1952 to 1960, being bombed, and the whole world being told these are terrorists. They're called Mau Mau terrorists. And actually, these were people of my tribe asking if they could have a bit of their land back so they could grow vegetables. And what we're witnessing now is this propaganda has, and the thing that has basically blown a hole in this whole thing is a very simple app called TikTok. Now, TikTok, people were just on TikTok making a little bit of money, going about their business, chatting stuff, getting to see people around the world, what they do. It wasn't much to ask. There's a lot of Americans on TikTok, about 190,000 of them. And these Americans were really starting to see what the world is like until something happened. People in Gaza started posting. And people around the world got to see what was going on. And then, because this app was becoming very popular, Zuckerberg and others, the investors of Meta, weren't happy about all of this, and they spent so much money pushing the American government to ban TikTok. But Americans had already seen the light. And many of them were desperate to have a community of people that they could talk to, an outlet, so that they could get real news rather than Fox News, which basically just pinpointed enemies around the world and gave excuses for wars, countless wars, numerous wars. And then something happened. They named the date when TikTok was going to be banned. And just someone discovered an app based in China called Rednote. Americans all shifted to Rednote. And what they discovered was an Aladdin's cave. An Aladdin's cave of people in China affording to live. People in China not depressed every single day of their lives, taking medication to stop their depression because their lives are so hard. They found people who could afford to buy food, groceries. They could buy fruit and veg. Who knew there would be a country where people can afford to buy fruit and vegetables? And the country was China. Americans discovered that people in China have to retire at the age of 60. Okay? And when they retire, they've got access to everything, pensions, free medication. They discovered that to go to do a law degree in America, you basically pay something like $20,000. And for the same degree in China is $700 a year. They discovered that people in China basically can buy a brand new car for $15,000. They discovered that people in China can literally afford life, and that they're not depressed. And China is amazing because they've been told communism is a bad thing and capitalism is the best thing. And now, I don't think Americans are going back. The propaganda machine has collapsed. And I'm seeing American senators, they haven't even seen the revolution that's taking place. They haven't seen it. They're still going on and on about Chinese threats, collecting data. And whereas Americans are handing over their data to China and singing the Chinese national anthem is the funniest thing. Americans have learned the Chinese national anthem, and they're literally singing the Chinese seen it. And some of them don't even know the words to the American national anthem. I'm seeing Americans learn Mandarin, and I'm seeing Chinese people doing videos teaching Americans how to speak Mandarin so they can communicate. Chinese people have been flawed to find out people in America are incapable of affording a single thing, and all they can do is take a medication to make themselves feel better. I never thought I would live to see the day when the house of cards starts crumbling. My God, like, I have been glued to this thing. Like, this is better than Netflix. It's better than anything I have ever watched. It's incredible.